What's up, fam? Welcome to another episode of the As the Leader Grows podcast. I am your host, Ken Joslin, where we are ridiculously passionate and excited about helping business leaders build confidence, gain clarity, and create community. I've got the coolest dude in the world as a guest today. If I don't even know where to begin on telling you what my guy, Henry Amar, I met Henry at an event a few weeks ago with my good friend Amberly Lago, and this dude absolutely blew me away. He's got the sexiest hair in America. This guy is real estate. He's an EDM pop star. He's a human behavior expert, international speaker. I left the day before he spoke. I hopped online specifically to watch him give his talk that Saturday morning. Guys, Henry Amar. Henry, what's up, my friend?
Hey, what's up, brother? Thank you so much for having me, man. It's an honor to be here.
Dude,
I got to say this, man. Ken is the real deal, man. I know everybody that listens to this podcast, there's passion, there's love, there's leadership. I went up to Ken, and I got to say this, Ken, to your audience, if they haven't met you. I went up to Ken. I was like, Ken, I just want you to know, man, I appreciate the leadership you carry, the safety you bring to the room, and the awareness you bring. And truly just honor to have met you and grateful to continue to get to know you, man. It's a blessing.
Thank you, my friend. We're off air just a minute ago, and I'm on. A lot of you guys know I've got my real estate business and I've got our GSD. And Henry, I guess the VA from the Philippines must have let you in the Zoom room. So he's listening to us talk about real estate, and we get done. He goes, "Hey, Ken, did you know I'm also in real estate?" I'm like, dude, is there anything you don't do that you're not involved in? Not only does he do real estate, but he does high-end commercial real estate deals. And he graduated at USC in Southern California for real estate. Wow. The dude is an absolute beast. Dude, take a minute and tell our audience a little bit about you, Henry, and dude, you're everywhere, dude. You're doing everything. Just take a little bit and tell our audience about you, bro.
Man, thank you. I appreciate it. I born and raised in Los Angeles, extremely passionate about creation and impact. You know, when I was like 17 years old, I grew up with so much limitation in my life. You know, we lived in a small little room. I had to jump off of my bed to my parents' bed to get out of where we lived. And it was just, you grew up with all these beliefs and limitations in your life. And I felt so caged growing up. But I was like, freedom is such a big value to me, man. I just want to be unleashed with everything that I am, but I felt so enclosed. And someone put a book in front of me, man. And I was like, wait a minute, I could change. I can grow. And so at 17 years old, I got obsessed. And ironically, there's a Dr. Phil book, man. It was really funny. A 17-year-old, I'm like, what is this? And I look and there were questions on the back of it. But I got obsessed with human behavior, man. And at the same time, I was in a boy band back in the day, right? And so we would travel, and I would be this like weird, kind of like mad scientist applying these principles on myself. And then if it worked, I would try it on a few people, and then I would just speak it from stage or do whatever while we're performing or traveling or go to speak at schools. And this parallel between the pop culture world and human behavior started growing together, and creativity. And man, and I just realized there's so much power in understanding how we operate as beings and understanding ourselves. And there's a lot of power in how to position yourself in a market to really create impact on a scale, you know? And so for me, both of those became my obsession. How I got into real estate, to be honest, I had started a company, and I had this feeling, and to me it was God saying, you need to sell your shares and go to USC. And so I sold my shares early. We'd just gone internationally. I sold my shares, went to USC, and I was like, what do I want to study? And I was like, you know what? I want to build skyscrapers. Like, developing a building is probably like writing a song. You get people together, you have this vision, you get residual income. It's like similar concept. And I love creativity. So I got into creative office, commercial real estate for the entertainment industry. And then, man, 2015, 2016 hit, and I had a really strong feeling. My mom was diagnosed with cancer. And right before that, I had a feeling like I wasn't where I was supposed to be. And then I realized, man, I'm supposed to be impacting the world in a different way than I had the sexy office, 16th floor, Santa Monica, Ocean View office.
Oh, it's beautiful. I love Santa Monica.
You know, oh, it's beautiful, man. I had the director of investments, $2 billion company, but it was like God said, it's time to go. And so I left and I just jumped in. And so now
let me stop you right there. Let me stop you
Yeah.
right there. Henry, talk about that, because a lot of, our core five here at GSD is faith, health, relationship, business, and finances. We talk a lot about faith. A lot of people, when you say God told me to go, like, number one, what does that mean? Number two, I mean, because you had what everybody would look from the outside in as, oh my gosh, this guy's got it all together. Like, he has the dream life. Number one, when you say God spoke to me, walk us through that, unpack that a little bit. And then, even though you heard God, man, you still walked away. Walk us through those two things.
Dude, I'll tell you, I'll add even more leverage to how hard it was to walk away. The week that I sent it, you sent an email, you're like, hey, I'm leaving this company. Here's my personal email. I'm leaving the industry for a bit. I got a message from a guy who was running a $2 billion real estate company. And he said, we need to go on a run. Went for, he offered me a partner position with equity. And they were going to double in years, like 2-3 years. They're like, we're getting aggressive. And I would have had equity. And he was like, I want you to open up our LA office. And I had to say no to that, even though like the money and it was even going to be better than what I thought. I would automatically be jumping into something beautiful. But how I understood it for me, for God, like, I went on this journey when I was 2021, I went on this truth journey of like, is there a God? Is there something bigger than me? I heard, I think, I know. And I went on this journey, man. And I would just pray. And every time I prayed, I felt like I was talking to myself at first. I was like, is there someone there? And I was like, God, I'll be Hindu, Catholic, Christian, Buddhist, whatever you want, but just give me direction. And I would go to different churches. And I started to say, you know what, if it's a good thought, if it's a good feeling, I'm just going to honor it. If it's fear, I'm not going to. And I went to this sermon and he said, God has not given us the spirit of fear, but love, power, and a sound mind. And I was like, well, if God didn't give me fear, then I want to walk in love. I want to walk in sound mind presence. I want to walk in my power, which is agency, which is choice. And so I went on this spiritual journey, man. And I just started doing what I felt was the right thing to do in my heart, regardless of whether there was fear behind it or not. And I started to feel this presence when I heard a thought, and it felt different than any other thought for me. And it's interesting because at first I was like, this just might be my thoughts, but I started honoring the little things for me. It was the little things, hey, go do this, hey, do that. And then one day I'm standing at a club, my friend's birthday. And all of a sudden I hear the voice, and it's like loud, the music's banging, and all of a sudden it's like, move out of the way. So I'm like, I don't know what that means, but I'm just going to honor it. Moved out of the way. Within 30-40 seconds, a brawl breaks out where I was standing. Two big guys tackle each other. I would have been pummeled, right? Wow. And at that point, I was like, you know what? Even if I believe it's truth, to me, this is my belief. God is love and God is loving, right? And even if I'm doing something that I believe is right and it's a good thing, and it's not what God was telling me to do, I'm sure he's not like, oh, Henry's doing that. It's like, oh, he believes that's me. And it got to the point where I wanted to spend so much sacred, intimate time building that relationship. Because what is a relationship? Ken, you and I just met each other, but the more I talk to you, the more I can, when we get on the phone, I'm like, that's Ken. I know that voice. I know that passion. I know that love. And so when initially it was really, really hard. But for me, I realized that there is truly something so much bigger than me. And I do so much better in my life when I just honor what I truly believe in my heart is right. If faith is not what you see, it's it's bigger than what you see, right? And so there have been moments in my life where I'll tell you this one. When I first got on the pathway to faith, it was hard, man. It wasn't easy. I thought it was going to be like golden roads come out, but I lost my girlfriend of 3.5 years. My friends were all making fun of me because I stopped drinking. My family was like, what are you doing? Like, I love that you love Jesus now, but like, we're Middle Eastern. So like, you know what I mean? So I felt alone. I felt deserted. I felt abandoned. I felt hurt. And I was sitting there, Ken, and I was like, I was struggling, but I said, I'm willing to do what's right because it's right, not because it's easy.
Wow.
And I said, God, I'm struggling. I said, give me something, man. Give me something. And I had my scriptures, and I just opened up my Bible, and it turned to Romans chapter 8, verse 28. And I looked at that and it said, all things work together for good to those who love God and are called according to his purpose. And sometimes we get answers and we put them on like an Instagram story post and we move on with life. Like we just don't even really acknowledge like that was my answer. But dude, I put my scriptures down. I get on this train and I'm in my head. I'm thinking like, oh man, life is hard. Man, I'm on this path. And all of a sudden I feel this presence of a guy coming closer to me. And I look up and there's a guy on crutches walking right towards me, looking me in the eyes. I'm like, this is going to be interesting. Like, what does he want? He comes up to me and goes, hey. And I'm like, hey. And he goes, when God says all things, he means all things. He didn't say some things. Wow. He didn't say almost everything. He didn't say a little bit of things. He said, all things will work together for your good. You stay on the path.
Wow.
What was that, bro? But I realized at that moment, man, like I didn't just, from that moment on, I didn't just want to believe in God. I wanted to believe him. And I wanted to believe in the promises that things do work together for good. And even when things are tough. So, back to the thought, I learned in my life, I do so much better when I allow myself to just listen to, I believe, a God that loves me so much that wants the abundance of every beautiful thing in my life for me.
Yes.
And so that leaving it was hard because I literally went from making great money to nothing. I gave up everything.
Yeah.
And I saved up enough money in LA where you think, all right, I'll save up 85K. It'll last me like, 6 months in LA, maybe. And by then I'll be making money. Dude, I went down to nothing.
Yeah.
And looking back and how I built up from that place, the foundation of nothing to where I'm at now, man, what a blessing, man. What a blessing it's been. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Walk me through the journey, because there's so many things that you do. I mean, you real estate, you're EDM, you're hosting and emceeing the largest EDM festivals around the world. I mean, dude, you're fascinating. You're speaking TEDx speaker. You're speaking on all these stages. I'm watching you last Saturday and I'm like, this dude's freaking good. He is so, and I mean, I'm fortunate. I get to hang around some of the best communicators in the world. Like I get to spend some time with some really, really cool people, and I'm watching and I'm like, dude, this dude's really, really good. And dude, the authenticity that you live your life at, the level of just genuineness that you live your life at is really what helps connect. But talk to our audience about you are, I love you said it just a minute ago, like this is a core value to me. Like this is who I am. Like I will not waver from this. Talk about just the ability to be able to have, something like an EDM or a TEDx talk or a real estate deal, like all of those things, relationships, very high level relationships. And you just, you are, and again, I've only known you for a couple of weeks, but you are so even keel and so smooth and level on all of those things. You're like, yep, okay, this is part of the journey. Walk us through that.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I'll share, if it's okay, I'll share a quick story about right before I went out on that stage that you saw me on, a story that really exemplifies, I think, a lot of the things that I've learned. The night before I got up to speak, I had a really strong feeling that I had to change what I was about to say the next day. So I updated all my stuff. And then right before I got on stage, Ken, I literally was like, whoa, my mind is blank. My mind is blank. And I was like, interesting. I normally at least know how I'm starting. And Ken, you know what came to my heart, man? I felt like God said to me, I emptied your mind of your thoughts so I could fill them with mine. And to me, I feel like, and everybody, like the cool part about, I believe, your audience is there's purpose, there's growth. Like they're here because they're hungry. They want to grow. They want to maximize their life. And my big thing was, at the end of the day, when it's my time at the last hour of my life, I want to put it all on the table and say, I gave it back.
Yeah.
You gave me this talent. I gave it all back. You gave me a voice. I'm using my voice. You gave me these relationships. I'm using relationships. And not only that, I'm going to magnify who I am. And the interesting part is everybody listening to this, we're all so different, right? Like Ken was telling me, and I love that you said that, you've looked at how your history has prepared you exactly to be where you are right now. I look at my life, I'm like, what the heck? Like boy band, real estate, like entrepreneurship, human behavior, spirituality. I'm like, what? People would be like, that dude has no clue what he's doing with his life. Sitting in a cubicle as a summer analyst in college at Goldman Sachs to like being on stage. Like it makes no sense. But like, I remember thinking about everything has prepared me specifically to be where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
And I realized the reason why even keel feels, the word is trust brings peace. And that's what I've learned. Never made sense when I was moving forward. It never made sense looking around being like, at 26 years old, Ken, I felt like I should go back to USC. 26, everybody's 18, 19 going to undergraduate school at USC, right? I had this clear feeling, sell your shares of your company and go to USC. I sell my shares, I go to community college. They look at me like, you're crazy. You're never going to get in. You have 5 W's. A W is terrible in community college. Like that means you withdrew. That means you didn't even get an F, right? Like you literally left. And they're like, USC won't even take 1 W. But I was like, no, in my mind, I was like, I know I'm supposed to go there. I apply to go, I get rejected. USC says, you're probably not going to get in next year. But I said, dude, I know I'm supposed to go there. And there is something, man, it doesn't, and this is one principle I learned is it doesn't matter what you see. It doesn't matter what people say. It matters who you know and what you know. And I went back and I worked my butt off again, 20 units, straight A's, started this organization, met people at USC. The following year, I got a full ride to USC. And what's crazy
you went from not even being accepted to not only being accepted, but them giving you a full scholarship to go to USC.
Grants, scholarships, everything. My tuition was paid for. Only thing I had to get loans for was some room and board.
Did that Romans 8:28 pop back up in your head when you?
100%, bro. And you know what's even crazier? My last semester, which I wouldn't have had, I would have graduated the year before had I gotten in the year before. There was a new professor on campus that was going to teach who one of his deals was a $39 billion deal.
Wow.
He did that big equity office deal with Blackstone. That was his deal. And one of the most beautiful human beings I've ever met. He's like, I need a teaching assistant. I need a TA. And luckily at the time I was, I'm not trying to throw names, but I was president of the real estate association at USC. And so he's like, everyone's like, Henry, have him be your TA. He became my mentor.
Wow.
He helped me get my first job, who the guy literally said, if this guy didn't bring you onto this job, I wouldn't have taken you in. In 3 years, I became a director. So what I thought was a year setback with me not getting in was a 7-year come up.
That's crazy.
I wouldn't have met Steve. I freaking love that man. He's one of my dearest friends now, one of the most beautiful powerful real estate guys in the world, and a good soul. And so I don't even know where I'm sorry, I divert. I just started sharing a story, but what leads me is trusting that I have been created purposely and for a purpose. In the unique nature that I am. I'm not supposed to be Ken. I'm not supposed to be anybody else. I'm supposed to be this crazy guy that expresses himself through his art and creates things that impacts the world. And it's only in allowing God didn't make me different to put me in a box. I was created different to be enhanced through the difference, through love, through presence, through the growth of the gifts that I have. And everybody listening has their own experiences, their own talents, their own giftings. And when we can acknowledge that and understand, like, how can I embody everything I was created to be so I could put it all on the table? And what blocks us is fear. What blocks us is this internal resistance in our body that's trying to keep us safe. And
I,
when we
I
can,
love I love what you say. Let me say, because when people see you on stage, like your TEDx talk, your leather jackets, you're cool, you look like a rock star, you talk like a rock star, you dress like a rock star. I mean, when you walk in a room, you're like, nobody looks at Ken Joslin and goes, "Oh, that dude's a rock star." They look at you and they're like, "Dude, that dude's a freaking like a real life freaking rock star." Like, so when you talk about God made me different, like you, for the average person like myself, you quote unquote look different, but the reality of it is every single one of us are unique in the way that God's made us.
yes, bro.
What would you say to the entrepreneur that's a solopreneur trying to get to 300-400K in revenue a year, who goes, "I'm not different"? You know, the stay-at-home mom who might be listening to this, who's a network marketer, who goes, "I'm not different." What would you say to somebody like that, Henry?
First of all, I tell the mother, thank you for having the best freaking job and
Yeah.
being the most important, one of the most important people on this planet, you know? And a lot of times we discount ourselves. But the word desire, I think Tony Robbins said the root word is desire, of the Father, right? There is something, everybody has a unique circumstance, upbringing, growth, where you grew up. Just think of it this way: where you are in your life with the people you're positioned around is exactly where you need to be. I say God is the best choreographer on the planet.
Yes, he is. Yes,
So
he
it's like
is.
5, 6, 7, 8. Henry, go to freaking Nevada right now where I'm at. I'm in a farm town, bro. I'm from LA. I don't know what I'm doing in a farm town, but my wife's here, you know, which is beautiful. And so I would just say, if you don't see it yet, just know that you are uniquely positioned to impact people that I can't. Here's an interesting story. And I know I'm using another extreme, but I met this Amish guy who, we're sitting there talking, and he looked at me and he goes, "Henry, we're saying the same thing. We're talking about faith and love." And he goes, "But if you were to walk in my congregation sharing what you shared, they would laugh you out of the room because of how you look and how different you are from us." He said, "If I were to walk in on the festival stage and share what you're sharing, they would be talking and they probably wouldn't listen to me. They think I was a gimmick." And the question is, who are you? Johnny Mack said, "Do what only you can do that won't get done if you don't do it." And I really believe, man, that, you know, if someone's sitting there asking themselves, "Oh, who am I to make a difference? Who am I to make 300, 400K? Who am I?" Go back to the belief system that you're carrying, and go back to the maybe trauma you're holding in your body, for the belief system from your past. Go back to the fears and let the fears lead you to your freedom. Don't look at your emotions as a dictator. Look at them as a messenger. Let them lead you to your core. Then look at your core with love and say, what am I operating with? Because I used to be passive. Boy band days, my nickname used to be passive. I was so afraid of what everybody thought about me. I was never bold. I'm talking so much right now. I would force it. I would smile, but if you knew what was happening on the inside of me, my gosh. And I look back and I'm like, I had to go through and comb through my belief system and my core and start surrounding myself with people also that saw me, the real me, you know? And so, and I know I'm extremely different, but I truly believe, like, I look at my mother-in-law who lives here, and we had a conversation about that. I'm like, man, you have a unique position here in this city to make a difference. And she is.
I love that. Let's talk about some of the things you're doing right now. Like you know, obviously TEDx speaker, human behavior expert. You've been doing all these amazing things. And then I go back to my hotel room that night when we're in North Carolina, and in the text thread of all the speakers at the event is something about one of your EDM music festivals. And I'm like, I looked at it and I'm like, and I clicked on it and I'm like, oh my gosh, this dude actually has his own songs. Like, he's doing all of these huge festivals, and either you were saying something about somebody who promotes these events, or somebody was saying, and I'm like, you host some of the largest music festivals in the world. Bro, where did that come from?
Man, you know what's funny, man, is I look back at my history and I look at the parallel that I talked about with human behavior obsession. You know, how
Mm.
do I liberate myself and then help people be free in business, in life, to make an impact? And then, you know, the pop culture world. And I always knew I was going to merge the two, because
Mm.
how do you create, in my opinion, how can I create massive impact on massive scale, go where everybody's going, and speak their language? And I speak their language. And so I met the founder of the Exit Music Festival. They won Best Major European Festival in Europe. They have like 9 festivals now in 8 countries. And went out there and first time just went out there to wanted to show me around their festival, because we had a similar mindset of bringing more love and light into this world.
Mm.
And Sunday morning comes and he's like, Henry, I think you should speak tonight. And I was like, speak? And they're talking about 40,000 people at the main stage, you know? And it was Martin Garrix and David Guetta. I don't know if you know, you guys are familiar with them, but they're massive. And so I got up and I was like, okay. So I got up to speak, and there was a connection that happened with the audience that I realized, man, this is what has been put on my heart for years. And you know, I have music that's not out yet. I have some music with some pretty awesome features right now, but you know, I'm working on building our own music festival and campaign centered around emotional wellness. And we got some of the world's leading trauma healing experts. You're talking about neuroscientists and doctors from Harvard and internationally coming together to put some resources together to create some powerful programming through a massive campaign we're going to have through influencers all over the world. So it's going to be really exciting, really, really exciting.
And so your own music, like talk to me about that. Like, where did that originate? Where did I mean, you're sitting at Goldman Sachs and running these, you know, multi tens of millions of dollars real estate deal. You're chasing God. All these things are going on. You're at USC. And then where did the not even the creativity, obviously you know where that came from, but where did the desire to do that come from?
You know, I've always loved music, man. I had my ear to the speaker as a kid, you know, and I love music, and I've always, you know, like just been passionate about it. And I started this project, and there's a song I have that's out called Tomorrow. And the way that came about is sometimes if I just am feeling something, I'll just allow myself to just take action on it or go with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to my sister on the phone at the time. She was working for a law firm. And she's like, I'm miserable. Every time I talk, yeah, maybe tomorrow I'll look for something else. Maybe tomorrow.
Mm.
And I this song, I was with my buddy who is an incredible songwriter and works with the best of the best. And I was like, dude, we need to do something. So this song Tomorrow was just created in this moment where I heard this track, this guy was playing the guitar. But to me, it's inside of me. And I think whether it's a song or a business idea or a phone call or whatever that is, I had to learn to remove myself to let creativity come through. And the song Tomorrow was born. And then so I started recording an EP. I never really fully promoted it because I have songs right now that I'm really excited to bring out. I have a song with, I don't know if you know who Lindsay Sterling is. She's got like 3 billion listens on YouTube. She's the dancing violinist. She's amazing. I have another song with a big YouTuber and some big features, but sometimes that's a passion of mine, but I know that that's not on the forefront of priorities. But man, it's just in my heart, man. I got to let it out, you know?
I love it, dude. I absolutely tell me, what are you working on now? Like what can our audience know about Henry that you're doing now? Like what's going on? What's in your heart? What's the vision God's put in your heart for the next 6 months or year?
Man, you know, for myself, there's 2 high-level projects. For myself, it's really, you know, I have the podcast. I'm finishing 2 books, you know, launching a bunch of stuff over the next little bit and doing all the speaking stuff. And I still work with music festivals. So in the summer, I'll be in Europe at festivals and we'll be doing campaigns with them. So I do a lot of partnerships.
Hey, and FYI, I've never been to Europe, by the way.
Hey, if you want to go to a music festival, first week of July, you can, you know, come out. We'll treat you with the VIP treatment. It'll be awesome. Seriously, if you want to come through.
I'm coming, dude. I'm in. You just give me the dates and tell me where I got to get a ticket to, and I'm in, bro.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, it's incredible. So there's festivals this summer, but you know, last year, this is what's really trippy and really awesome. I had this vision, man. We were initially working on a project that fell through because of some stuff that I probably shouldn't share publicly, but not because of me, but it was conflicting brands that one tweeted something that was very different politically than another one. But we were working with a a huge artist on a social impact campaign around mental health. And it was going to be sponsored. There was a $5 million sponsor. That thing fell through. But during that process, I had this vision that finally said, now you bring pop culture and emotional wellness together at a high level. And this vision came through, and I just started writing, and I put this deck together of a festival called Higher Love. And it was a festival, it was a campaign, it was a conference. And dude, I'm sitting there like, this vision is massive. And I'm sitting there in Europe about to go on stage to speak to this big audience. And I'm saying a prayer, man. I'm like, dude, this vision is massive. I need an integrator. I got the vision, but I need someone that could put the lights, numbers, all the stuff. I walk out. One of my favorite music festivals, the director reaches out to me and says, hey, I heard you're putting a festival together. I'm sick of doing festivals where people are on drugs. I want to join yours.
Wow.
And then I'm like, I really want this guy, Frank Anderson, is brilliant trauma expert, like Harvard best one expert. I was like, I want Frank Anderson on my board. I go to sleep. I wake up. Who's following me on social media? Frank.
Wow.
All this stuff. So what we're doing now is we're building this board of the world's leading experts in mental health, like leading cutting edge leaders. And then we have 3 campaigns we're launching. One's a worldwide campaign where we're gathering some of the biggest celebrities and influencers to launch a campaign at the same time. One's a youth campaign where we already have some of the biggest youth YouTube channels coming together, and school districts, over 300 school districts, and people in the White House to pass policy to bring mental health more into schools at a younger age.
Wow.
And then a local campaign here in Utah, and we're going to launch a music festival out of here. So that's keeping me really busy. You know,
especially since COVID. Yeah. You know, I've got a 14-year-old, another friend of mine that I was just on the phone with the last week or so has a 14-year-old they had to put her in the hospital for about 5 days. She was contemplating suicide. It's hard. It's hard being a teenager and being isolated. You know, I have 4 daughters, but my 19-year-old didn't even get to graduate high school.
Wow.
Because of COVID. I mean, there's so many things that they've had to face as a generation that probably hasn't been faced by any generation until maybe you go back to like the Vietnam era where they were like 18, 19 and going to war. So walk me through kind of what does that look like to get fleshed out, and when will we be able to see those things happening from you?
Yeah, I love that. You know, I want to emphasize something that you preach so much, and I love it. It's relationships. You know, I just saw your post recently on social media where you were talking about how you reached the top of your agency because of your 15 years of relationships. You know, and I will emphasize that with you times 100, exclamation point, bold font, you know, massive, you know. And so I was sitting on a Zoom call of people that we brought together for this. One of them helped eradicate polio in India. 2 of them were from the White House. 2 of them run the biggest music festivals in the world, biggest trauma healers in the world. You have top experienced designer. And I'm sitting there looking, I'm like, how have I been so blessed? And these people are all excited to meet each other. But had I not genuinely sought to add value to people's lives and give love and value to people for so long, I wouldn't have been able to be like, hey guys, we can come and add value to the world at a massive scale. And they trust me enough to be like, I don't know who else is on this call, but I trust you.
Yes. Yeah.
The music festival guy, we're talking about Chance the Rapper and all these other things. He goes, Henry, I don't care who else you talk about. He goes, if you're in it, I'm in it.
Wow.
Because I see God in your life and I see the values you hold, and you've just shown up for 5 years for us over and over and over again. He goes, so you let me know how to get behind you. And so, Ken, I want to just be a sidekick to you in that message of relationships, of genuinely seeking to add value and love to people's lives, because man, together we can do so much more.
Yeah. The way I say it, and I said this at Amberley's the other day, and this is the talk I give. It's the number one thing on my heart right now is, you know, great leaders want something for people, not from people.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, when you get around people, which is what makes our relationship so amazing. Tiffany, we had Tiff Peterson on earlier, is because when you get around high level people, high achievers who really don't want something from you, they want something for you. There is such a value exchange And it literally, it's, there's a verse in scripture says, if one can put to flight 1,000, two can put to flight 10,000, because no longer is it addition, but it's exponential multiplication that happens when you start putting people like that in the room. It literally is the momentum and the exponential possibilities is absolutely mind blowing. And I don't know about you, but dude, I wake up every day. I'm like, I pinch myself. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I get to do this. I get to spend time with the people. I get to sit here and have conversations with people like you, and who literally are, your vision is so, let me ask you this question. Some people listen to your vision and they're like, dude, well, you got it made. God speaks to you. This happens. This, I'm just a smaller entrepreneur. I've got 5 staff members or 10 staff. Like, how does somebody learn to dream and believe as big as you dream and believe, Henry?
And you know what? I thank you for saying that, because Ken, as you were saying it, I was like, but you put in the work. I know you put in the work, Ken. I see you. Yeah. I see you pay attention to people in the room and going to the person that needs you in the room. Right. And for me, like, I struggled bad, man. I tell people, if you could plug into my brain, you'd think anything was freaking possible, because I was the most insecure person I'd ever met. I grew up in a very interesting household. My dad would throw things across the room. I watched my mom die of cancer. I held her hand. I watched my dad struggle and die. I have been through some things in life. I had a near-death experience, pretty gnarly, where I thought I had 6 months to live. I've had so much interesting opposition in my life. And there was a decision I made at one point. There were 3 of them. Sorry, I'm thinking of them. One is, I had to realize that I wanted to take back my power of choice. I had to choose. Number 2 was, if I was going to go through it, I might as well grow through it. Right. And the most important one was, I had to really understand the concept of fear and abundance, the difference, and how can I have so much loving self-awareness, and the word is loving self-awareness, to understand myself at a level that is so honest and direct. But man, I remember starting to put in the work and how hard it was for me. But I will tell you, there's no greater thing that you can do for yourself than look in the mirror with love and allow yourself to feel the difference between your spirit self and your body self. My spirit has the vision, my body has the fears. And understanding that I don't want to have emotional override by putting love over fear. Just go, do it. You put love into fear. Why is your body trying to hold you back? The journey to abundance isn't emotional override. It's learning to understand you must have these 3 things. You have to learn how to empower yourself in the present moment. How do I gain emotional mastery right now? How do I gain confidence now? Heal from your past. All the belief systems from my dad. My dad started working at 4:30 in the morning, got back at 7:30, made $30,000 a year. We were severely in debt. And my belief system was, you have to work really hard to barely get by. And my belief system is going to create my behavior system.
Yes.
And my behavior is going to create my results. And so I had to learn how to heal from my past. And then how do I reprogram myself to be the programmer, not the program, to program myself into the belief system, the identity, the certainty of who I am. So if I didn't look at my past, I would keep getting pulled back by the former beliefs. If I didn't reprogram myself, I wouldn't become who I need to become to attract the relationship, the life, the energy, all that stuff. But if I don't understand the present moment, the eternal now, emotional mastery, emotional regulation, my emotions are messengers, not dictators. How can I sit with them? If I can't power myself up right now in this moment and know that step by step, I can love myself where I'm at and love myself not, God said this to me, man. He said, Henry, I love you exactly where you're at, but I also love you enough not to keep you where you're at. And I just really believe. So if someone's sitting here saying, man, I don't know if I have this dream, but I'm really scared to go after it. My prayer is always this: God, this is my dream. It's this or better. And when I was in a boy band, I was like, we're going to be the next big thing. We're working with Destiny's Child's producers. We were like supposed to be the big thing, but it didn't happen. Thank God it didn't happen. And so just trust that if your vision isn't, if you're going after something and you don't hit it, my belief is it's this or better.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. Bro, I'm blown away by you, dude.
Oh man, I appreciate it. I go on these rants, man. You've asked really good questions, and I just go on these rants from my heart, and I appreciate you just letting me just go, man.
I love it, dude. Henry, tell people where they can find you. What's the best place to connect with you, man?
Instagram, Henry Ammar, HenryAmmar. I have a podcast called Making It Happen with Henry Ammar. We dive into like emotional stuff, fears and abundance, all that stuff. Ken, I'm excited to have you on my podcast too.
Yeah, I can't wait, dude.
Super excited. I'm honored to be here with you. Yeah, and Henry Ammar at all the places. And, would love for, any questions you have, feel free to shoot them out to me. And I'm honored to be here. Thank you, Ken.
Man, dude, I love you, bro.
Love you too.
I'm excited about it. I'm excited about our future and some of the things we're going to get to do together and the impact that we're going to get to make together and helping the world and the people that we get to touch become the best version of themselves.
Amen, man. And I'll say it publicly, like I told you privately, man. Thank you for the life that you've chosen to live, because I know it's a choice. You know what I mean? I know that there are moments you get up and you don't want to do the thing that you want to do, but you do it out of your heart, out of your calling, out of your purpose, and out of what you feel. And it's the consistency that no one else knows, but really you and God, that you've done that has led you here. And the best is yet to come for you. I believe in you so much, man. And I appreciate the man that you are. So thank you.
I appreciate that. Guys, on that note, if this episode of As a Leader Grows has blessed you, added value to you, I'm going to ask you to do a couple of things I do every week. Number one, man, hit that subscribe button. Number two, while you're listening to this podcast, usually in your car or on the Peloton or in the gym, snap a screenshot, put that over on Instagram in your story, tag my guy, Henry, tag me. We'll both reshare. We've got a ton of followers. We'll help you on that as well. But again, thank you for joining us this week on another episode of As a Leader Grows. We'll see you next week. Love you, buddy.
Love you.